Hey everyone, it's Natalie, also known as Knitty Natty. Welcome to episode 175 of the Love in Stitches podcast. It is a beautiful sunny day here in New York City. Our temperatures are still really cold, but we had like a weird bout of spring over the weekend. I don't know if that happened anywhere else in the country, but it was so nice for about 6 hours. I can't wait for that to come back. Before we get into the knitting today, I want to say a huge thank you to today's podcast sponsor, Book of the Month. You know how much I love to read and knit, but sometimes I get a little stuck figuring out what to read next. Book of the Month's mission is to help readers discover new books they love while supporting the work of emerging authors. Here's how it works. Each month, the editorial team reads through hundreds of new titles. They pick out 5 to 7 of the best new books for me to choose from. All of the books are vetted, so I can't go wrong. On the first of the month, I just go to bookofthemonth.com and pick out 1 to 3 titles from the curated selection. Then my book selections are delivered straight to me in a bright blue box with beautiful hardcovers with the Book of the Month seal of approval. This month, I picked out 2 different books. The Only Survivors by Megan Miranda is a twisty thriller, and Advika and the Hollywood Wives by Krithana Ramisetti is a contemporary fiction with old Hollywood glam. Book of the Month also has a fun app that makes it really easy to manage my subscription. I can pick out my books for the month, track my reading progress, and even skip a month if I get behind on my reading. I love not having to wonder what to read next. I can just pick out one of the best books with the swipe of my fingertips. Go to bookofthemonth.com to sign up and get your first book for just $9.99. My knitting this week has been really scrambly. Honestly, I wasn't even doing all that much knitting and crochet until the weekend, and then I just kind of exploded with so much energy for knitting and crochet and got a whole lot done. But that being said, I was finding myself really only working on stuff that was easy and simple this week because my mind was overwhelmed, and it just helped to have the easy stuff ready to go. So I didn't work on my citrine light sweater at all this week, but I'm feeling a little bit better and I am planning to work on it next week. So thank you all for all of your comments last week. And inside, I think I am going to redo the ribbing. So stay tuned, I will be updating you. But let's get into some projects that I actually did work on. So the first one is Quadrophenia. So Quadrophenia is a blanket by K.F. Jones, and it is knit in 4 different triangles. They kind of look like shawls. So what I have been doing so far, let's see, this is the first one that I did. This is quadrant A. Hold on, it's a little tingly because I got my next color ready to go. So this is quadrant A that I started with a few weeks ago. And I worked it all the way through the 3rd color. And wait a second, is this my first one? I don't know why there's a marker on there. Take that off. I worked it all the way through to the 3rd color. Actually, I joined that 4th color. You can just see there's blue coming in. And then I put it on end caps, set it aside, and started quadrant B, which is one of the quadrants that I worked on this week. So this is quadrant B, and where you saw me last week, I had just started this color, I believe. Actually, you know what I had done? I had just started adding this color with the pinks and the browns and the whites right here. And when I started that, I realized that it was too much brown back to back in the 2 colors, and so I made a swap. So I looked at my photo that I have with all of the different colors laid out, and I made a decision to swap one of the other 3rd colors for this one and swapped it out. And I think that was a really good choice because this one was just coming out way too brown back to back. And I'm just trying to really spread all of the different colors around the entire blanket and make it look really, really nice. So I finished the 3rd color here. And this is the only color that I don't know what it's called. I couldn't find the label for it. I even went back to Vlogmas 2021 and watched the Vlogmas for this day to see if I had the color name, and I didn't. I never had the card, so I have no idea what it is, but I finished that one up. Actually, I'm showing you the back. Here we go. And it's looking really good. And then I added in the fourth color before, again, putting it onto little stoppers and starting the next quadrant. So let me pull out my handy dandy bag of tags. Actually, I already pulled the tags out. There's always like a little teensy bit left over of each yarn in here, and I still haven't put them on my magic dot ball. Again, my brain is just not there right now for doing extra stuff. Just knitting is enough. So I have not done that yet, but I need to, or else I'm gonna have a whole lot of stuff to add to my magic knot ball. So this color that I've added in but only done like 2 rows is called Liberty Square. Okay, so then I set that one aside and I started my third quadrant, quadrant C. And it looks like I forgot one of the tags in here. Oh, I see it right over there. It's okay, I'm not gonna go get it right now. I'll add it in later. But I started the third quadrant and made quite a bit of progress. So this first color here is one of my favorites so far. It is called Main Street USA. And then this one, which the tag is across the room, is called Dole Whip. Kind of reminds me of like a old-fashioned dishcloth color. And then the color that I swapped that was originally going to go here, the brown or pink, I am adding in here. You can barely see it, it's just started. But I think it's looking a lot better in this quadrant. And then after this, there's like a lot of blues and purples in this one, so hopefully that balances out the brown. But this one is called, nope, where is it? The Country Bears. You can see I swapped it out, so it was B3 and now it's C3. I have them all labeled because it just makes it so much easier to keep track of everything. So I was really, really behind, and not even until the weekend did I complete one full color of my blanket. So my goal is to work through 4 colors per week. So even though each of the segments like almost looks like it's a different amount of knitting, it's not. They're all 20-gram balls and I'm using all of them to the very end. So whether it's like, I think this middle section is 19 rows or 14 rows, it's the same amount of knitting because it's the same amount of yarn. So I was really, really, really slow this week. But finally, over the weekend, I finished up this color, and then I think maybe that was on Friday. Then on Saturday, I was able to knit through this color, and on Sunday, I was able to knit through this color. So I only got 3 colors done in the last week. However, the week before, I had done 5 colors. So in total, 5 colors from the previous week, 3 colors this past week. I have completed 8 colors, which means I am still on track to continue doing 4 colors a week for the next 2 weeks? No, that can't be right. 4 weeks? I don't know, I figured out all the math. Actually, you know what? I have it here in my notebook because March was kind of crazy, but I'm a little more organized here for April as far as my knitting plans go. Let me see if I can find it. Yes, okay, perfect. So yeah, for the next 4 weeks. So now here in my notebook, you can see that my goal for this week of April is to do colors 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then I just have them written in for all of the different weeks. So I am working on the 9th color. That's this one, the Country Bears. Things are going well. So I think what I will do is continue on the path that I have already been working on, where I get to the 3rd color or add the 4th color in for a quadrant and then start a new one. Because I have one more, quadrant D, to start. And I've just got all of the different yarns here in the bag with their labels and everything, keeping it really, really easy. So I think I will finish this color, and then I will start my final quadrant and work through 3 colors of that, and that will hopefully get me through to the next week. And then I'll start going back around to all the quadrants and adding more colors. The reason that I wanted to do it this way rather than just like work, because there's going to be 6 colors in each of these, rather than just work from like the 1st color all the way through to the 6th color, is I wanted to kind of see the blanket develop, you know, and be able to like make changes in the middle before just completing one whole quadrant. Because I knew if I had finished an entire quadrant, and then as I started to work a next one, what if I needed to swap a color like I did with this yarn? I know that I wouldn't want to go back and tear things out and redo it. So I figured this was a better way to do it. So 3 at a time, then start the next one and the next one. And that's already been working out in my favor because I've already made a swap in order to make things look balanced. So then I'll just keep working on the rest. I don't think this is going to be a very big blanket. I mean, I knew it wasn't going to be. I think the estimated size is like 36 inches, which is pretty small. But it might even be smaller than that. We'll see when I wash it, if I'll get like a decent amount of stretch out of it. I don't know. But I'm really enjoying it. Like, I'm just loving seeing the colors come to life. It's very easy knitting. It's very comforting knitting. And it was something that I really, really needed this week when I was feeling lots of stress. It just brought me a lot of joy. Another project that I worked on a ton this week is my Musselburgh hat. The Musselburgh is a hat pattern by Isolde Teague that I have made many, many times. I can't remember the exact number. This is like my 7th or 8th one, I think, in the last 2 years, because they're just the best project for taking around with you. Simple, easy knitting, and then you can also change them up and make them slightly different. And I love wearing my Musselburgh hat so much. Every time I make a new one, it replaces the previous one, and that's all that I will wear. I'm serious. The last one I made that's half rib and half knitting, I have been wearing every single day. Honestly, it really needs a wash. So this week, I had a lot of instances where I was out and in the dark and needing some knitting to do, and that's why I have this project. Other than that, I'm not really concerned about working on it or getting it done by a certain amount of time, but I will tell you, now that I am pretty far into the hat, I think this is going to become something that I want to get done in this month. So we'll see. I don't know. I already have my other easy project going with Quadrophenia, so they're kind of competing in that way where they're there for simple knitting, but they're really all I have going right now because I'm stalled on my sweaters, but that's okay. So we went to 2 movies this week and a Broadway musical, and that is when I got all of this ribbing done. So I am working this version of my Musselburgh hat in stockinette on either side, so for the crown and body of either side of the hat, and then 6 inches of ribbing here in the middle. So the ribbing that's in the middle, when you fold this all up inside each other, that ribbing will become the brim that folds up for this hat. So I realized that I haven't put the notes in my project page yet for this, but if you go back to one of my other ones, or just give me a little while and I'll get it all updated, I will be putting the section lengths in there. So I've done the crown, then I did 6.5 inches of stockinette, 6 inches of ribbing, I'll do another 6.5 inches of stockinette, and then the other crown, and that should give me a 3-ish inch brim on either side. I say ish because 6 inches of ribbing unstretched is not still 6 inches of ribbing when you stretch it, right? Because it's a lot longer here than when I'm actually wearing the hat. So I need to kind of play with that. I think I'm really, really close. I think when I measured, I had like 5.75 inches of ribbing. So I need to kind of measure that. I also need to weigh my yarn and see where I'm at, because I'm probably, well, it really doesn't feel like it. I was gonna say I'm probably under 50 grams. I might be, I'll have to see. I wanna use up as much of the yarn as possible, but I also wanna leave a little bit extra just in case. So I know for my size, which is about the small, like medium size, I need 8 grams to finish the decreasing for the crown on the other side. So I like to leave myself at least 10 grams. That's 2 extra grams just in case. But because I'm placing this ribbing in the middle of the hat, I don't have as much wiggle room to like make one side longer than the other. It's going to be lopsided and weird. I guess it doesn't really matter because I don't need to necessarily like flip this hat the other way because both sides are going to be the same. So I don't know yet. I'll kind of look at that here when I'm ready, when my brain is ready. But for now, I know I need to do a teensy bit more ribbing before I switch back to the stockinette for the other side. So this yarn is a very special yarn. It's not showing up nicely there. Let's show it here. This is a Little Wolf Knits yarn, and it is called Love and Speckles. It is a one-of-a-kind special colorway that we did just for Love and Stitches members in January of 2023. It's no longer available, so it was just for members who were there at the time, and I am treasuring this skein by using it all up into a hat that I will love very, very much. So I am pleased with that. I think, you know what I'm gonna do is I'm going to switch out my marker on this, pick something else, because especially for a project that like, it kind of lingers, right? Like I'm not like pushing myself to get it done. It's fun to kind of switch out the markers, give it a little new life. Maybe well, I like this project bag because it fits so nicely into my other stuff. And somebody made it for me, which is really nice. So maybe I'll give it a little bit of a new life, but I can totally see that once I'm done with the ribbing and I start on the stockinette, this thing is gonna fly and I'm gonna wanna get it done. And then I'm gonna need another project for in the dark knitting. So I already said I didn't work on either one of my sweaters this week. I didn't make any progress on changing my citrine light. I didn't start swatching my All of the Lights cardigan. I am just like not ready right now. And that's okay. I still did a lot of knitting, and actually I did a little bit of crochet. How cute is this bag? It says "S'more yarn, please." It is from So Crazy Crafter. I think it was like a little collaboration between her and maybe Mandy's Makings. I didn't actually order it directly from her. I got it in a D-stash because I love s'mores. And usually I call them s'mores because that's what my mom said. And I'm from the South. Okay, so what have I done this week? I am so proud of myself, especially after having a really hard time getting pattern writing done in the month of February. I feel like I've been kicking butt in March, and I have been working on my crochet yarn cozy light. So this right here, I had already done the bottom portion, but I actually ended up having to rip out what I showed last week, redo it, get the right size, and then I finished it. This is going to be called the Mini Crochet Yarn Cozy. This is a 20-gram cake inside of a cozy that I need to weigh it. I actually don't know how much yarn it used, but not a lot of yarn. Super, super fun. And then there is going to be a 50-gram version in the pattern. This pattern is going to come out on May 1st, by the way. I have been working on the 50-gram version. I just started this one yesterday. So here's a lovely 50-gram ball of sock yarn. This yarn came in two 50-gram two 50-gram skeins, which I wound into a 50-gram cake. So you can see that it's fitting in there super, super nicely. Obviously, I'm not done with it yet, but I think it's gonna be so, so cute. So I already have knitted versions of both of these cozies, and I already have, this has been my little project bag with all the different tools and things I need. This is the 100-gram crochet yarn cozy. So I have been working to get my 20 and 50-gram ones ready for my testers who have already been, who've already applied, been selected, and been sent an email. So I'm not looking for any testers for it right now, but they will be testing it over the next few weeks. And then we will be having a celebration, doing a cozy make-along in the month of May. I think it will be perfect timing to make some cozies, use up some leftovers, scrap-free 2023, and also get some cozies ready for sock week if you're going to be doing that in July. So feels really, really good. I spent a bulk of my knitting time, my yarny time over the weekend, kind of working through the pattern and getting things made up. But once you start working on those, they like go up really, really fast. One more thing I want to share with you is something that I purchased this week that I didn't purchase it this week. I received it this week. I'm so excited about it because I have been wanting one of these for at least 6 months, and I have been kind of waiting because I wanted to know exactly what I would need first, and that is a new beautiful needle organizer from 5 to 6 Handmade. I'm gonna put the link to this Etsy shop down below because it is incredible. I haven't seen a lot of these in person yet, and then as soon as I ordered mine, I saw somebody at the yarn shop with one the next day, which is so funny, but they're amazing, beautifully made bags. So I opted for a custom bag, and let me show you what makes them so special. I mean, it's already like a really beautiful bag, right? Like, look how nice the zipper is. There's a nice big pocket. Look how cute that fabric is in the front. Box bottom bag, lightweight, heavy duty zipper. Something else to show you, but check out inside. Can you see? Labeled pockets for needles, for interchangeables, for double points. On the other side, for crochet hooks. So I actually worked with Molly, sent a lot of messages and photos back and forth on making, I think this is her like, I can't remember which bag this is. She's got so many different kinds on there. But one of the bags that she already had a lot of pockets into, we added another layer of pockets and then on one side, and then customized the different pocket labels to fit all of the needles and things that I have. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because I'm totally planning to make an organization video out of this, but I am so excited about it and wanted to give you a heads up because these bags are amazing. I also got a matching circular needle case, which fits right inside. It's got magnet closures and comes with stickers so you can label the pockets, which I haven't done yet because I just got this yesterday. But then there's a bunch of, let's see, how many are there? Oh my gosh, 4 times 3, 12 different pockets that you can put either circular needles into, or I'm going to use it for some of my cords and things. So my goal is to get completely out of all of the needle organizers and things that all of my needles and hooks came in, get it all into here so it's all in one convenient place. You know what, let me put my stickers back inside before I put this away. It's all in one convenient place. It's cute, it matches. If I ever need something, I can just take this with me and I'm good to go. And my ultimate goal, I'm not going to be doing this very soon, but see all of those little bowls behind me with all the different notions and things? I want this to be like my one-stop shop for all of the accessories that I need for knitting. So not only are we downsizing yarn, I want to downsize my tools, I want to simplify, and I want to have everything I need in this bag. Let's get into some questions. We have some fun ones today, as always. And our first question comes from Sue. Do you have any issues taking knitting needles on planes? Thanks so much for all the information you share in your videos. Okay, I have taken a screenshot from the TSA website and we're gonna put it right here. You can take knitting needles on domestic flights in your check luggage and on the plane and carry-on bags. Now, do you see the little red caution thing? It says the final decision rests with the TSA officer on whether an item is allowed through the checkpoint. So, I have never had an issue with knitting needles, crochet hooks, whether they're metal, whether they're small, whether they're big. I guess I haven't had any, like I rarely take big knitting needles. I've never had an issue traveling within the US, ever. The only thing that happened one time is I had my sock needles in one of those like DPN cozies. So the two sock needles were like pushed together. Let me show you what I mean. Set my computer out of the way. My two sock needles, here we go, were pushed together like this inside a cozy. And so when it went through the, machine, it looked a little dangerous. So all they did was pull my bag aside, look at it, see that they were knitting needles, and then I was good to go. Wasn't a problem. So you shouldn't have a problem. You are allowed to bring knitting needles on the plane. Again, within the US, I can't speak to any other country. I've heard all sorts of things about different experiences traveling around the world. Some people are fine, some people are not fine. It just depends. But I don't think within the US you need to really worry or do anything to like trick or hide your needles when you're traveling. I think having knitting on your needles is always going to help your case, because then you don't have to explain yourself. It is a lot more obvious what those things are being used for. And if you ever do have that instance where you get pulled aside and they're looking through your bags, just don't say anything. Just let them discover that it's knitting. I feel like sometimes we get ourselves into trouble by trying to talk or explain things. So, just be nice, and I think it will all go your way. I would say have a backup project, I guess, just in case, or I don't know, make sure you have a book. You never know what could happen. And if you do get caught with an agent who is particularly like a big stickler for the rules, honestly, that's when I would stand up for myself and pull up the TSA guide, but I would be very extremely friendly about it, but very firm about it, and try to continue to get my needles through security. But ultimately, it is within their right to deny you to bring those things on. So just an FYI. And then the other thing that I didn't take a screenshot of is scissors. Scissors up to, I think it's a 3-inch blade, are allowed on the plane. So you'll see people say a lot like, oh, I bring this like yarn cutter, or I bring like fingernail clippers so I don't have scissors. One, like, I don't really need scissors that often during a project when I'm like on a plane for 3 hours. But two, your scissors are fine in the US again. So you can bring scissors, small ones, you can bring your knitting. It really shouldn't be a problem. Just mentally prepare for a worst case scenario, but you really shouldn't sweat going through security at all. The next question is from Marinelle. I was watching some very old bonus episodes and I saw that Kent wanted you to make him a sweater as well. Did you ever get around to that? Definitely not trying to shame you or anything if you haven't, I'm just curious. I love this question. This made me giggle actually. No, I still haven't made Kent a sweater. He actually has not wanted me to make him one yet. He still wants one, like in the general sense, sometime in the future, but he just doesn't want me to make him one right now. But he's been very, very interested in me making him hats. So I've been making him a lot of hats in the last year. Other than that, I really don't make Kent a lot because he's not a sock wearer. Like, he obviously wears socks with his shoes, but he doesn't wear socks around the house. And so he doesn't really want me to spend time knitting socks for him because he knows they won't be put to good use. And hey, I appreciate that. Eventually, I'm sure I will be making Kent a really nice sweater when he's ready, when he wants to pick something out. He's very vocal about what he wants knitting wise, and I would be happy to do that for him. The next question is from Karen. I live in Scotland and I'm planning a big trip to the USA in July. It will be the holiday of a lifetime. I'm wanting to buy a mini skein of fingering weight yarn in every city/place we visit as a memento. Do you have any advice about the colorways or style I should go for? And what project could I make that would befit my special trip? Okay, Karen, that's going to be so much fun, and I really love your idea of gathering little bits of yarn from all around and then putting it together into a project. So as far as projects go, I would say something that you can knit a lot of yarn into, but also knit a lot of colors into is important. So you're probably looking at something more like a shawl or maybe a blanket so that it can handle, again, a lot of yarn and a lot of colors. So I am going to guide you toward my Advent pattern bundle. This is just a place on Ravelry where last December I put together all sorts of different types of projects, both knit and crochet, shawls, blankets, sweaters that use mini skeins. So I'll put that link down below. It's a really good resource for anyone who's ever looking to use an Advent, use scrappy yarn, or do this type of thing where you're traveling and buying up different bits of yarn. Now, as far as when you go into a yarn store, I'm actually a little concerned you're gonna have a hard time finding mini skeins. I don't know if it's just not something that I'm personally looking for, so therefore I don't see them because I'm not looking for them, but I'm not sure every single store is going to have just mini skeins available. And even if they do, they might or might not be in like colorways that are special to the store. So just bear that in mind, that it may be a little more difficult to find just mini skeins. I don't think I see them a lot. Could be completely wrong, but I find whenever I am traveling, it is much easier to find hand-dyed yarns that are regional. So whenever I go into a yarn store, and by the way, most of our yarn stores in the US are extremely friendly and you can definitely ask for help. In fact, that is a very normal thing to do for somebody to greet you when you come in and ask you if you need help finding anything. So what I will always say when I'm traveling around is like, hey, I'm from out of town. I'm looking for something that is special either to your store or something that is like dyed in your state or in your city. And then usually the yarn store owner or worker, whoever is there, will be able to point you in the direction of like, okay, all the yarns on this wall are like local. Not every store does that, but a lot of stores do. Or every yarn that has like this marking, like there's a store in Texas that they put like a little Texas state outline on all of the yarns that are from Texas. So that's really helpful because you can find that. Of course, ask for mini skeins at that point. But I think if it were me, I would want to get more yarns that are like local and I can't get anywhere else than just a mini skein. But if those cross over, then that would be ideal. And then I don't know, just I think it's always fun to get like something that just represents that state, that city, that place, regardless of like exactly what the color is. That's why I would maybe plan a project that's going to be a little wild, can take a lot of color, and once you get all of your stuff, you can lay it out and see what everything looks like. So good luck. That sounds like it's going to be so much fun. Toaster is having a dream, I think, over there. He was making all these noises. He's twitching and stuff. Sweet boy. He just falls right to sleep. Whenever I'm on a Zoom or whenever I'm talking to the camera, I think it just lulls him to sleep. Okay, our next question is from Gwendolyn. I tried, instead of doing SSK, knitting the 2 stitches together through the back loop. I cannot see the difference between doing this and the SSK. Am I crazy? Okay, that made me laugh too, the am I crazy part. You're not crazy. Let's talk about it. Actually, I meant to try this. Let me get my project here because I know what you mean. An SSK and a slip knit are, an SSK and a knit 2 together through the back loop are both left-leaning decreases. So hang on, let me knit a couple stitches in. So I think off the top of my head that the main difference between SSK and knit through the back loop is the way that your stitches are going to be oriented, but that actually depends on the way you do your slip knit. Okay, so I know you're not going to be able to see this. This is not really a tutorial. This is more of a think tutorial. I'm going to think through it. When I do a slip knit, I slip my stitch knitwise, the first stitch knitwise and the second stitch knitwise. That's not the way everyone does it. Sometimes they slip knitwise and purlwise, whatever you do. And then I put my needle into the front of those stitches, which have been turned because I slipped them knitwise, and I knit them through the back loop. Let me knit another stitch. Oh, actually, you know what? I think I'm seeing what's happening. When you do a knit 2 together through the back loop, you don't have that first step of slipping the 2 stitches and changing the orientation of them. Instead, you're knitting them through the back loop, which would be the same thing. Yeah, okay, I see it. Knitting 2 stitches together through the back loop would be the same thing as if you did the slip knit, but slipped both of those stitches purlwise. I think I'm right on that. You should test it on your own and like look. They're both a left-leaning decrease, but the knit 2 together through the back loop is going to twist your final stitch around, whereas if you do a slip knit by slipping each stitch knitwise, you're going to still have stitches that are oriented like the normal way and they're untwisted. So I don't know, they're not like so different that I think it would destroy your knitting if you changed it in a pattern, but it is interesting to think about. I'm sure there are people that are more technically inclined that could give you more answers than that, but basically the difference is that your stitches are going to be oriented differently depending on how you slip your stitches. If you were already doing slip knit by slipping 2 purlwise, then yes, knit 2 together through the back loop is the same. But most slip knits will tell you to either slip both stitches knitwise or slip 1 knitwise and then 1 purlwise. All right, that was a lot of talking about slipping stitches. Let's go to the last question from Havana. Happy belated birthday, Kent. Thank you for all the birthday wishes to Kent, by the way. He really, like, it made his day. Okay, hi Natalie, I love your videos and I live for Thursday mornings when I can watch your podcast with some coffee. I have 2 questions for you today. 1, do you think a shawl would be an appropriate knitting pattern for a confident beginner? I have practiced my knits and purls plenty. I know how to make one right and make one left, but not decreases. Do you think this undertaking is too ambitious? Number 2, I also live in New York and I was wondering, out of all the yarn shops you've been to, do you have a favorite? Thank you so much for your amazing content. You seem so genuine and lovely. Also, sorry for the super long comment. Hey, don't apologize for a long comment. I appreciate your questions. Okay, so I think a shawl is a great project to go to next after you've mastered some stitches, you have a handle on increasing. You might not actually decrease at all in your shawl. It depends on the stitch pattern that you're doing. If you're doing lace, you're going to be doing some decreasing, but you'll be able to handle that. Decreasing, I think, is actually a little easier than the make one right and make one left, because you're either knitting 2 stitches together, or like we just talked about in the previous question, slip, slip, knit, knit 2 together through the back loop. And you can look up tutorials, video tutorials for any of those stitches and find them on YouTube, like no problem. So I would say, go for it. Most shawls are going to be repetitive in some sense, which I think is a really great way to explore new stitches, to improve upon pattern reading for beginners, and just to like get confidence in knitting. So I would go for it. You got this. As far as my favorite yarn stores in New York City, so not too many podcasts back, I can't remember which one, I actually talked about just a bunch of different stores that I would recommend in New York City. So I don't want to answer this question the exact same way. I will tell you, if I had one store to go to in Manhattan, which one I would go to. Because I can't really pick a favorite, because I don't think that's really fair, because each store has something different that it gives. But if you were only coming to Manhattan, not Brooklyn, because Brooklyn has really good stores, and you only had one stop to make, this is what I would recommend. I would recommend going to Knitty City in the Upper West Side. It's a really large store. They have a big selection. They usually have some locally dyed stuff. Just ask. It's usually on their like orange table. That's usually like their special stuff. And they're just really friendly there, and I think you'll have a good time in that space. And then the other reason I would recommend it is just I love the Upper West Side. So if you're a visitor, I know you said you live here in New York City, but I live here in New York City too, and I like to do this afternoon all the time. I will go to Knitty City, pick up whatever I need, then I will walk myself like a couple blocks down to Levin Bakery, get a cookie, get a latte, then walk yourself 2 more blocks over into Central Park. You now have your yarn, you have your treat, you have your latte, you can sit on a bench, you can people watch, you can knit or crochet, or read, or listen to a podcast. Literally an ideal afternoon. I do this all the time once the weather gets warmer. I cannot wait for it to get warmer so that I can continue to do that. All right, thank you all for your amazing questions as always. I will say that I am seeing a similar question pop up a lot, and it is about like sweaters for beginning knitters, or what style of sweater should I do when it's my first sweater. So I am thinking about putting together a video that is totally separate from the podcast to really like answer that question, suggest patterns and things like that. So if you can help me out by leaving a comment and letting me know what was your first sweater that you made, if you would recommend it for beginners. So leave those pattern suggestions down below, all of you sweater knitters, and I'm gonna try to put together a resource for people who are looking to make their first sweater and put that into a brand new video. Because we've been getting that question a lot, and it's just like, I don't know how to answer it like concisely in one podcast question. If you do have another question for me that you'd like me to answer here on the podcast episodes, just leave your question down below, but make sure you put #question in the beginning of your comment. We use that to search and find all of the questions for each episode, and it helps us out a lot if you follow that format. This week's new video was a subscriber suggestion. So if you remember a A couple of months ago, I asked for all of your suggestions, and we have been going through them. We put together a list, and now we are starting to select different videos or just kind of get ideas like from your ideas. So one of them was to do a video about how much I knit in a day. And I thought that was such an interesting topic line to start with. So this video, I actually share with you how much I knit in a day, but I take one weekday where I have work and then one weekend day where I have some other things going on. I'm out of the house meeting a friend to knit, etc. Of course, no 2 days are exactly alike, but I thought this was a good way to compare them and see well, how many hours do I actually get to knit in a day? The most interesting thing I think about this video, which I will leave linked down below, is that I knit a lot of hours in the day. The actual time from when I sit down to knit to when I stop knitting is a lot of hours, but I don't feel like I actually get that much done, or it doesn't always correlate to exactly how much knitting I get done. So I feel like knitting hours doesn't always equate to knitting productivity or actual inches knit or crochet stitches made. So it just kind of depends on focus, mood, and what you're working on. So it was a really interesting experiment. I hope some of you will try it out as well. And thank you for the fun suggestion. Next week's video is going to be all about needle organization. I cannot wait to fill this baby up. So I'm going to take you along with me as I kind of pare down my other needles, notions, and tools, get rid of some things, and get everything else into there. Stay tuned for that. I think it's going to be a really, really good one. Okay, the Cozy Along 2023 is going to be starting on May 1st. More details will be coming soon, so just make sure you're following along here and on Instagram. It's going to be a really casual make-along. Basically, you can knit or crochet any of my cozy patterns, from the yarn cozies to the can cozies, bottle cozies, any of those things. Let's get ready for summer. Let's use up some of our leftovers. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then the last thing is that I am going to be starting to talk about Sock Week already. The Sock Week sponsor reveal video is coming up in about a month. So on Tuesday, May 16th, I am going to be revealing to you all of the different people and products involved in Sock Week 2023. The actual make-along is in July. It's July 9th through the 16th, but we do reveal all the sponsors and then drop all the products about 6 weeks before that so that you can get prepared. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'll have more information about both the Cozy Along and Sock Week coming very soon. I mentioned I did a lot of out and about knitting this week, and I have tons of pictures to prove it. So this week was a really social week for me and Kent. It is not normally that way, but I have to say it was really nice to be hanging out with people, to get out of the house. The weather was nice enough one day that we actually were sitting outside having a beer and knitting, and it just felt like, hey, warm weather is coming. We don't have to hole up in the house anymore. I mean, I guess we don't always have to do that, but it just feels really, really good. So on Wednesday, I got my hair cut and my hair colored, and while I was getting my toner or whatever they put on my hair done, I had 20 minutes to sit and knit. So I sat and I was knitting and I was listening to a podcast episode, and it was great. Sometimes I will knit while I'm actually getting my hair dyed, but this was a really quick one. I mean, you probably can't even tell. We're just getting my hair darker and darker because my natural color has become a lot darker than blonde, which is what it used to be. And I just want it to be easy and low maintenance. So that was a nice way to squeeze in some extra knitting. Wednesday night is when we went to our first movie of the week. So Kent and I both had March birthdays. And so we had free popcorn and a drink at the movies. And of course we waited until the last minute to actually use them. So we were like, okay, we have to go to 2 movies this week because we already have our movie pass. We already paid for the movie, so that's covered. And then we have these free popcorns that we want to use. So we went to the movie on Wednesday and on Friday. On Wednesday, we saw Shazam. So here was my Musselburgh hat before the movie. And then here it is after the movie. I got like, I don't know, maybe an inch of knitting done. Sometimes I don't knit during the whole movie, especially because my arms start to get kind of tired with that much circular knitting in the round. I really need to start working maybe like some sweaters in the round so I can work on the body during the movie. That way I can be more comfortable on wooden needles, on 24-inch needles. So I might be thinking about casting on like one of the tops that I was thinking about making to have that for like in the dark knitting. Obviously not the beginning of it, but I think that would be really nice. Then on Friday, my friend Amy and her husband Ian were in the city, and so we met them for lunch. We got some really yummy pizza, and of course Amy and I were knitting. I think I was working on my Musselburgh hat. She was working on a beautiful pair of socks. We ended up coming back here to our apartment and just hanging out for a couple of hours. We got a latte. It was just a really, really nice day, so it was so fun to be able to do that. And then on Friday night, again, we went to the movies. This time, Kent and I saw the new Dungeons and Dragons movie. It was really good. I would recommend it. I liked it more than Shazam. Shazam was okay. It's kind of just silly. But I like the Dungeons and Dragons movie even more. So again, I was working on my Musselburgh hat. Here it was before, about in the same place it was when I finished up Shazam. And then here it is after. Got a little bit more work done on it. I told you all of that ribbing was done out and about, most of it in the dark. On Saturday, we didn't have plans for this, except that Kent has been wanting to go see Phantom of the Opera. This is for as long as we've lived here in New York City, and it is going away in about 2 weeks. So kind of down to the wire here. So on Saturday morning, it was rainy, it was cold, but Kent went to the box office and stood in line for 2 hours and got us 2 tickets for the standing room only seats to see Phantom of the Opera. That ended up being pretty great. It was not, like obviously it was a standing room seat, but we paid, I mean, maybe 1/5 of the price of the tickets, of the seats that were right in front of us. And so that was a great way to get into Phantom of the Opera. I will say that I didn't love Phantom. I wasn't really like, it wasn't high on my list to go to, but it was good and I'm glad we went, but I'm also glad that we only paid for standing room only tickets. I still managed to knit during it. So here is the knitting that I got done. I didn't take a before picture, I just forgot. But that was where I kind of ended my Musselburgh knitting for the week because that was all the out and about that I was going to be doing. Saturday, after we saw Phantom, we went to the daytime show. We met up with my knitting friend Maddie and her boyfriend, and it was a beautiful day outside. So we first went to one of our favorite like local beer places. It's kind of a local chain, I think. But I needed another yarn for my Quadrophenia. I switched over to that because I was tired of working on the Musselburgh. And so I ended up winding my yarn there at the bar, which was fun. I mean, we had our own table, so I wasn't literally on the bar, but that was kind of funny. And then the weather was really, really nice. I think it was almost 70 degrees. So we moved to another place. We ended up sitting at a table outside and I was working on my knitting there. And then all of a sudden, the wind picked up and the temperature started dropping. I was like putting my hat back on, putting my rain jacket back on. Other people were sitting outside and their drinks got blown over. So like glass was smashing everywhere. Signs were falling down. People were like screaming. It was so dramatic. But we decided like, okay, it's about to start storming, time to go home. And so Kent and I came home and we actually ended up picking up trying an Indian food place that I think we'd been to once before, but I think a friend had ordered it for us. So we just like ate whatever they ordered. So we ended up going in, ordering it, taking it home, and it was incredible. It was so, so good. So we ended up having a great night. We watched, at home, we just watched the movie Neighbors, which was super, super funny, and had a great night. I knitted, and it was a great day, very social. That wasn't it. I had one more little knitting date on the docket on Sunday. I met my friend Jordan for bagels and knitting, which was really, really great. We had an awesome time, had a couple of hours of knitting. We ended up moving from the bagel place where we were at because it was scorching inside. It was like everyone had their heat on because it got cold when the storm came in, but then it was too hot because it was sunny and it was so warm. So we ended up moving over to one of the malls here in Manhattan and finding a little table to sit at, and that was really, really great. So it was very, very fun. And then on Sunday night, Kent and I had big plans to cook up breakfast for dinner. So the story behind this is that the Sunday before was actually Kent's birthday, but he was recovering from a cold. And so he wasn't very hungry. He also was like, I don't really like, I'm stuffed up and I can't really taste, like, let's table breakfast for dinner for another night. We kept pushing it off. And finally we had time to do it on Sunday. So we cooked up sausage and bacon and pancakes and biscuits and corned beef hash, and Kent made poached eggs. I mean, it was just a feast. We were even eating on it again this morning. So it was really, really fun. Okay, I have started a new book that I am really, really enjoying. I started it before I got my new books from Book of the Month. So as soon as I'm done with this book, I'm going to start on that. But I started A Spell for Trouble by Esme Addison. I have never heard of this author before, but sometimes what I'll do when I don't know what I want to read next is I will just go and see what's available in my local library. And so I borrowed the first book that looked interesting to me, and it has been really, really good. It is a cozy mystery, and there is a little bit of magic in it. No knitting, but actually a little bit of knitting, but not intentionally. And so it's been really, really good. I've enjoyed it a lot. I am just somebody, I think, who likes cozy comfort reads. Not all the time. It's good to like mix it up. But after reading A Court of Thorns and Roses, which I did finish, and I still think is good, and I did actually go ahead and put the second one on my wait list, but I'm going to take a break before I read that next. It's been really, really good. So yeah, we watched a lot of movies that I already mentioned, so I'm not going to mention those again. Okay, last thing here, it is a new month, so I have some new intentions. So every single month for 2023, my plan is to make a goal or intention in 3 different areas of my life. So 1 for my personal life, 1 for my business, and 1 for my Yarny goal. I think I'm actually going to start with my Yarny goal this time. That one's really, really straightforward. My plan is to work on my Quadrophenia and knit through 4 colors every single week. So 4 colors every single week. I showed this before, but I can turn right to it. I've already got it all planned out in my notebook. This week's goal is colors 9, 10, 11, and 12. I don't think it's focusing, is it? Then after that, and if I follow through on 4 per week, I will be finishing this blanket in the last month of April, aside from any kind of border, because I'm kind of thinking about an I-cord border around the whole outside edge of this. That's not part of the pattern, but I think it would look really, really nice. So my hesitant plan is that I will leave all the stitches live in the last row of each of these. And then once I seam, because this is a seamed blanket, once I seam everything together, I will then have like live stitches all the way around so that I can do an applied I-cord bind off. We'll see. I'm not 100% sure yet, but I do see that maybe my Moon Glow yarn that I used for my blanket that's right here, hang on, this color, I think might make a nice border on this Fangirl Fibers blanket as well. So stay tuned for that. Okay, let's talk about my business goal for the month. So for this month, I am going to be completely switching away from pattern writing. I did that for 2 months. I'm done with that for now. I mean, I'm not done. I'm going to continue it, but I don't need that to be my focus right now because it is rocking and rolling. Instead, something that I've really wanted to clean up and work on is my website. Right now I have knittynatty.com, which is like looking a little tired. I don't update it very often. I don't have a good system for it. And then I also have all of my membership, courses, and classes on another place. So I am looking to kind of get everything, at least like one web page that leads to all of those things so that you can go to knittynatty.com and find the YouTube channel, my patterns, my merch, my classes, all in one nice place. So that is something that I'm planning to start working on here in the next week and kind of chip away at throughout the month. Okay, so that brings me to my personal goal. I literally just changed it before I sat down to record because I realized that I'm just feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling overwhelmed this month, and I had one plan to do something, and I may still do it, but I may also push it off into another month or just not worry about doing it daily. So we're not even going to talk about that. Instead, I think the best thing for me to do as a personal intention this month is not to have one, which I know sounds like the opposite of actually making a goal, but I would argue that it is not. I think sometimes a choice to just say, I'm going to pause here, or I'm going to take this one thing off my plate so that I can have the space to just deal with all the other things that are coming up, is a really brave thing to do. Maybe not brave, but just like can be a smart thing to do, or smarter than continuing to push on and try to add other things on top of things that are already overwhelming you. So I am not going to be doing my original plan for April. However, I did do a brave thing this week, and I got myself signed up for therapy again. I am happy to be able to talk about this because it's not something that I used to want to talk about, because it is still, but also just felt too vulnerable to share. But I had a really hard time getting myself signed up for therapy this time. I've actually gone before and it helped me, but I just couldn't push myself to do it. So with all the feelings that I've been having lately, of feeling overwhelmed and stressed, honestly feeling like sad and angry, and all of these things that I don't normally feel, I asked Kent for help, and he was able to sit with me, first hold me accountable to actually sign up for my sessions, but also just sit with me and do the mundane task of signing up online for counseling sessions. So I am signed up. I am going. My first one is in 2 days. I don't really want to go, but I'm gonna go anyway. And I wanted to share that just in case there's anyone else out there who is feeling overwhelmed right now and just having a hard time and needs that extra push to get the help that you need. So my heart is with you. I hope you're doing good. Instead of making a different personal goal for the month, I'm just going to focus on attending my counseling sessions and not putting any extra pressure on myself to do. To just keep doing more and more and more. I'd rather just take it out of my knitting. Take it out of my knitting and really work through my Quadrophenia or work on my new sweater and stuff. That really, really helps as well in, paired up with the professional help. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.